Boris Johnson's strategy to tackle the pandemic on a regional level in England is now being challenged on several fronts. The Mayor of Greater Manchester, Labour's Andy Burnham, is resisting plans to place the region in Tier 3 with the toughest restrictions. He said it would amount to a punishing lockdown without proper support for the people and businesses affected. His views were backed by some Conservative MPs and local council leaders. Now, the picture across England is changing rather rapidly. The grey area on the map is a medium alert. That means the 10 p.m. curfew and the rule of 6. The expanding orange areas will be on high alert from midnight tomorrow, and this will now include cities, towns and villages stretching from Barrow in Furness in Cumbria to Elmbridge down in Surrey. It includes London and Essex and York. And yes, that means that 28 million people will no longer be able to mix indoors with other households. At the moment, only the Liverpool city region is in the red Tier 3, that's on very high alert, where people are banned from mixing with other households indoors, as well as in most settings outdoors. But as I mentioned a few moments ago, Greater Manchester and Lancashire could soon be added to that red category. Well, first tonight, our political editor Laura Kuensberg reports on a government strategy that's under strain.
Is it too late to stop the northwest doors closing? The government wants Bolton and every part of Greater Manchester in a limited lockdown. Pubs and bars shut, travel restrictions, no household mixing. But students Dominic and Connor say at college everyone's already ignoring the rules.
Even though we might be locked down, people are still going out, innit? So, what's the point?
Today I've been mixed with a load of other people. There's no social distancing, no nothing.
Angela's had enough.
I'm sick of it.
But Georgia thinks a limited lockdown could be worth it.
As long as it curbs the stem of coronavirus before Christmas and people are then able to see friends and family around the time, that's kind of what my big concern is.
It's not happening for now, though. Listen to the resistance from the Mayor of Greater Manchester after angry conversations with Number 10.
They are asking us to gamble our residents' jobs, homes and businesses and a large chunk of our economy on a strategy that their own experts tell them might not work. Greater Manchester, the Liverpool City region and Lancashire are being set up as the canaries in the coal mine for an experimental regional lockdown strategy. This is an important moment. Greater Manchester will stand firm.
No applause from 200 miles away, though. There have been furious calls between ministers and MPs, including angry Tories. But the government's not ready to force the North West, still trying to persuade.
So I call upon local leaders to set aside this party politics and to work with us to put in place the measures that are needed in Greater Manchester, across the North West, so that we can deal with this virus and support people through it.
The reluctance of politicians on the ground to back harsher restrictions has been the concern that those who live there will lose out. Where firms have to close, the Treasury's promised to stump up 2/3 of wages and workers could top up with benefits. But a well-respected former government advisor says that just doesn't cut it.
We are looking at a period of destitution. Do we want to go back to the days where people can't put shoes on their children's feet? This is what we are talking about. Are we actually asking people in places like Liverpool to go out and prostitute themselves so that actually they can put food on the table?
But more than 20 million people do know tonight they'll face extra limits on their lives from midnight on Friday. Right across London, Essex, York, parts of Derbyshire and Cumbria, meeting friends indoors is off. For Sue Maybanks, it's yet more time home alone.
Well, I haven't seen anybody inside my flat since March. It's lonely. So that's why I come out, chat to friends, outside in the fresh air. What else can you do?
Martin says his dry cleaning business is already on its knees.
We're in Tier 1 and business is completely dead. Look at it. If we get to Tier 2, I don't think it'll make much difference anyway.
And Bajina worries about more time indoors with the kids.
I had her at home with me for 6 months, which was so hard to keep her entertained.
Unlike his counterparts in the north of England, the London mayor had been pushing for tighter rules.
The virus is spreading rapidly in every corner of our city. Nobody wants to see more restrictions, but this is deemed to be necessary in order to protect Londoners, I must warn Londoners that we've got a difficult winter ahead.
Downing Street wants to push and pull different parts of the country in and out of limited lockdowns to match the spread of the disease. But those differences mean a clash, a war of words at least, between national and local leaders. But in the end, it's Number 10 that has the power to impose tighter rules. But remember, the Tories want to keep their newfound friends in the north. There is no easy way out for either side. Laura Koonsberg, BBC News, Westminster.
Now, the Mayor of London, Labour's Sadiq Khan, said there was simply no other option than to introduce the new restrictions there. He said he would continue to press the government for more financial support, but added that the winter months would be difficult. More concerns have been raised about the impact of the restrictions on businesses, particularly in the hospitality sector, with London's 10,000 pubs and restaurants. Our special correspondent Lucy Manning has more details.
London's ability to meet up, drink up and to eat out has already been limited. Theatres shut, nightclubs closed, pubs finishing early, and now 9 million Londoners facing more restrictions.
We've only got a small garden here.
Lauren Johns owns a pub in Hackney in East London. Her area has some of the capital's highest COVID rates. She's now scared what direction her business will go in.
We already had to reduce our capacity massively to allow for social distancing. And then the 10 p.m. curfew, that's cut trade by about 25%. As then now this, not allowing households to mix indoors, it's just a triple whammy. We've got such restrictions on us now, but no financial backing from the government, unless we're forced to close, but that won't happen until the next year.
Nearby, Ebony Ferguson and her 4 children can look out over London, but worry, like many in the city without gardens, how they'll see relations. Now facing the same problems as many have in parts of the north for months.
My eldest is autistic and partially sighted, and he sees his nana every weekend. So that's a break in his pattern, so he's going to struggle with that. I don't think their nana's going to be able to be outside. It's too cold for her.
But half an hour's drive from Hackney over the River Thames, most of the areas in South London have lower rates of COVID cases. Some here don't think all of London should be stopped from mixing inside with other households.
But politicians are adamant the new restrictions must go across the whole of London, because they say Londoners don't work and socialise and live in the same places, and that COVID cases are going up across every borough in the city.
In Southwark by Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, the area only has nearly half the rate of COVID cases compared to London's worst areas. Unfortunately, the stage is set for more job losses.
We'll see by the end of October, yes, I think we will have lost 120 staff. And we've got people who've been working with us for 10 years who've been made redundant, so it's breaking the heart of everyone. I don't think we're going to see a London nightlife until vaccine is arrived.
Friends enjoy their last drink for a while. They won't be able to meet inside from Saturday, and autumn outside isn't appealing.
Pandemics are real. To be honest, we've lived through a lot worse things, you know. We can get through this. I feel like people just need to be safe, stay at home and just follow the restrictions that are in place.
Harder for pubs and restaurants, tougher for families, difficult for friends. Like Leeds, like Birmingham and elsewhere, this will now be life in London. Lucy Manning, BBC News.
Well, tonight, local leaders in Lancashire have been holding talks on whether to join the Liverpool City region in that top alert level, and if so, what kind of government support they think they'd need. Our special correspondent Ed Thomas has spent the day in Burnley, which has seen one of the biggest surges of infection in the UK in recent weeks.
The waiting, the uncertainty. What next for Burnley?
Normally on Thursday, I remember, we was very, very busy. Completely we go in quiet. Even I can see from outside the town is quiet.
It's not doing Star and Dylan any favours.
At the moment, the business-wise, we are getting quiet.
And we are losing money because we got a lot of bills to pay, we got rent to pay. Day like this, we're supposed to 3-4 staffs working in here. Me and my mate, we've been really quiet. Literally, we've been sat here doing nothing.
Council leaders in Lancashire are in talks with the government. The most severe COVID alert level is almost certainly coming, but as cases rise, so too the frustration.
I'm fed up of it, to be honest. I'm fed up of hearing about it. It's boring mess.
I'm outraged. My children, they've had to isolate, they've been tested, they are negative, they've gone back to school, 2 days later, another child has been positive, so she's come back home again for 2 weeks. This is ridiculous.
And down the road, the bridge is still serving.
They seem to be playing politics with people's livelihoods.
But there's constant worry for Simon.
We're all waiting on a tender up to see if our industry is going to be shut down while they just fight it out about how much money they're going to get. It won't make a difference. You need a full lockdown.
I had to go on benefits. I've never been on benefit. I've been working since I was 13 years old.
Avisha lost her job as an estate agent in the first lockdown. She's 24 and still out of work.
So they basically just said, because of COVID, they have to let staff go, and I still had my bills to pay for. So yeah, it's just a massive hit for me.
What are your options?
To move away.
That's what you're doing?
To move away and find a new future for myself, really.
But there's another upsetting reality.
We're the fourth highest in the country at the moment. Neighbouring practices, over 50 cases in a week. It's ripping through the terraced housing. There's nothing we can do to stop it.
And Dr. Mark Jobon is seeing it every day now.
So what is the pressure like now on frontline services?
Frontline services and general practice in particular is significant. Practices and services are really, really creaking. The hospital is full. It's where it was in April at the previous peak.
How dangerous is this moment?
It's dangerous, and I'm really worried about the people of this area.
It is an anxious time for so many as Lancashire waits to hear its new COVID rules.
Hugh, tonight, local authority leaders across Lancashire are meeting right now. This meeting has been going on since 9:30 tonight. This deal to move to a very high COVID alert level, a deal from the government, is being considered. What they're looking at is the test and trace package on offer. Does it do the job? What they're looking at is the financial support package on offer. The question is the government offering enough resources to cover the hit that will happen to businesses here like pubs and bars if they have to close? I understand that this is being considered as the final offer from the government and it could still be rejected.
Ed, many thanks again. Ed Thomas, our special correspondent there with the situation in Burnley and in Lancashire tonight. And as Ed was saying, really at the heart of the disagreement between regional leaders in England and the government is this question of how much financial support is needed for those areas facing much higher restrictions. Let's talk to our economics editor, Faisal Islam, who's joined me here in the studio. Faisal, is this the heart of the debate, really, what the Chancellor, what the Treasury can do in terms of these regions and the help they're asking for?
Yeah, I mean, there's pressure on the Treasury here. The government could just impose these tier 3 very high alert levels if they wanted to, but they need the local leaders in order to give it backing locally, to get people frankly to comply, to have a point to these restrictions. And so the people like Andy Burnham in Greater Manchester are using that leverage to say, well, we want the return of the full furlough scheme as it was last March, 80% funding of wages. Treasury, my understanding, standing firm that that's not what they want to do. We heard the Chancellor today defending the 2/3 rate for businesses that have to be shut, saying it compares well with European equivalent schemes, that it can be topped up with universal credit for lower paid workers. But that's not the only issue. In the tier 2, the high alert level areas, you have this issue where some businesses have their business model temporarily crippled, thinking of pubs where you can't meet between different households indoors, and yet they don't have that level of support. They have a considerably lower level of support. The worst of both worlds is what they're calling it. They need support. London's joined that, other places too. And then just in general, now you have companies having to make big decisions based on a worst scenario of what's going to happen over 6 months. Big pub chain Marston's announcing that 2,000 employees will move straight from furlough and they have to let them go.
Faisal, many thanks again for the update there. Faisal Islam, our economics editor.